and we came in at noon and went ashore and went down to the left. And we went down the island that way. They took half, and we took half. And we were, 1/6 was very close to the 4th, because we were up the center of the island, and the rest of them were down towards the end of the island. And I was, so basically I was in the center of Tinian going across. And everything was memorable. The D-Day was not as bad as Saipan. They all laughed about it. I thought it was pretty bad. We had killed maybe 6 or 8, 10 Nips, but the Nips all ran. And then and at the airport, which was down to the right, they had a hell of a fight down there that second day. But this time, well, the interesting thing is, I became accustomed to it, and I was getting into it, and I was involved when this guy that had joined us with me, I had seen him on the ship coming over and that, and he said to me, Slim, will you take my watch tonight? He said, they've called, you're taking a watch at 4 to 6 in the morning. And I said, yeah. He said, they got me down for 8 to 10 at night, or 10 to 12, I don't know which was. He said, will you swap with me? Because he said, I have not slept for 3 days. And he said, if I don't, I'm going to really get killed. And I said, okay, I'll swap with you. So I gave him my time, and he swapped. Well, I went out, had an uneventful time watching on my watch. The next morning was when we had about, I'd say 12 to 15 Nips that had been in the bushes about 75 to 100 yards ahead of us. You could hear them knocking and chatting and that at night. And they were aware of what their problem was and we had, our line was out in front of us, I would say 20 yards, something. We were all along that line. And this guy was out there where I was supposed to be from 4 to 6 in the morning. Well, the Nips decided around 4:30, 5 o'clock, they were going to try to banzai before they got killed, and because we were going to get them, we were going to be going out right away. And they were in a big mound of dirt that went all up and around, and must have been, and then there were trees and bushes, and they were all in that. They came out of there about just at dawn, before dawn, and they started down through the line. They had about 75 yards to run, 100 yards to run to get to us. They were carrying hand grenades, swords, rifles, machine guns, everything, and there were a lot of them, and they were yelling. Well, I can tell you, every Marine in the place started firing at them. When they got down as far as, and our 2 guys stood up that were guarding us to shoot, and they threw a hand grenade right down between them, and they blew it up. And then they were killed before they hit the line. Every one was killed before they hit the line. And then these 2 guys, the word ran out, Corman. So the guy, I don't think he was 10 feet away from me, was one of the corpsmen lying down. And he jumped up and started up there. Well, I never saw him after that until about noon that day. And he was doing something, and I walked up and said, how were the guys that were in there on that morning when the grenade got? What happened to them? He said, legs. I said, both of them? He said, both of them had bad legs. I said, where are they? He said, I think they're back to division, maybe gone. And I said, he said, I never saw him again. I never saw the kid again. I have no idea where he is. But it was me. And then I went on, and I will say, about 2 days later, we were still in the middle of Tinian. It was a fairly level spot when I was put on guard duty that night again, and we had a group of we were protecting, and I was on from 10 to 12 at night, and about 10 o'clock, I'm out there with this guy, and we dig a hole, and we lie, and our feet are crossed, and we're looking this way and this way. When I said, did you hear that? And he says, I think I did. And we listened again, and we heard something moving in the sugarcane. And they don't move in sugarcane, you shouldn't. So some stupid Marine had gotten stuck somewhere, and he got lost or something. And there was And so I yelled, I want to hear a password. And as soon as I yelled, I want to hear a password, I'm sure those 10 or 12 guys lying back there going from lieutenant to corporal down to gunny, everyone woke up. Everyone had their weapon. And so the noise, one more time. And I said, I haven't heard a password. You better give a password. And at that point, back in the group, I heard a very authoritative voice say, Slim, let them have it. I said, Jesus, it could be a... And the word came back, let them have it. And I fired off 3 shots. And I heard a boom. And I heard a bird from back there, nice shot, Slim. And so it was over. So I came off watch at midnight, laid down, went to sleep. And at about 5 the next morning, I heard this one kid jump up, says, let's go around and find out what we got in this one. You know, it's a souvenir. And a very authoritative word from back later, I could hear it, don't you touch that guy. McMahon gets first crack at any souvenir. And I'd killed him. Well, when I got around to go into the Sugarcane to see him, he was standing there laughing like hell. I said, it's all yours, Harry. It's all yours. And I looked in, and there's a dead cow. I shot a cow. Yeah. It was necessary, and I'm awfully glad. In fact, one of the guys, Gunny, walked up to me and says, "It was a good shot, anyhow," and so I did. But
through the Sugarcane, no less.
Yeah, no, it was terrible, but no, it was good. We had good times and bad times then. And I will say that next day or two we were in the center of the island, and we were going, and their mortars got lined up, and I don't know. They are very sharp. Don't ever underestimate their fighting ability. But they knew where the line was, and they figured out where where we were, and we were right on the line, right back, because we're head Russian service. We have everybody from CPs down to communications guys, to telephone operators, and then the commanding officer. So we were there. Well, they started dropping mortars on the line, and I heard the first one way down there. I was too tired that night to dig a hole. I was the only one in the whole fucking area without digging a hole, and I was lying right across from a bare area, and we had a Jeep parked in the grass underneath some bushes. And at second and third mortar started down. They were right in the line. They were coming right down on us, and I said, "I'm going to get hit." So I screwed across the floor or the ground and crawled my head and shoulders underneath this Jeep. I don't know what I got underneath the Jeep, as far as I could get. And here, I know there's a gas tank right above it and all that shit, but this time I was scared of something around my... Well, the mortars came by. They stopped. Next morning, I rolled over about 5:30, and I went to change. Every other day you change your socks, in the combat. And so I rolled over to take my socks off. I looked down at my leg, and it was solid red, and my stock was stuck to my leg. And I said, when I got over here, I probably cut myself in that damn Jeep. And I looked down, and I saw the sock was completely covered over everything. So I went over into Gunny, and I said, "Look, Gunny," he says, "you better go to sick bay." I said, "Fine." So I got in the Jeep and went back to sick bay. It's about 100 yards or so behind. And so I walked in, and the kid out there checking in, where you check in, he said, "Your name?" And I told him, and he said, "What happened?" I said, "I cut my right leg." And okay, and he marked it down. That really was what I said. So I went in, and Dr. Gus laid me down on the table on his cot, and I laid my stomach, and he was working on me. And I didn't want to look back, and it hurt, and I didn't want to look back at all. finally I did. I looked back and I said, what do you, and he had cut me open about yay long, and he had a big tube. And he says, this is sulfa drugs, Harry, or Slim, but because you're going to infection. So I put the sulfa in. He said, he patched it all up, and he said, here are 2 more patches. Every other day, change the patch. And if there's something happens, get in touch, come back and see me. Dr. Gus was from Minnesota, Gustafson. So I did. About 3 or 4 days later, I'm down by a railroad talking tin end. Dr. Gus yells across, Slim, how's your wound healing? And I said, I didn't know. I said, he said, I took a hell of a big piece of shrapnel out of you. And I said, you did? He said, yeah. And I said, it's healing well. I said, I put both of them on. He says, stop up and get another one if you need it. And that was all there was said. Now, at that point, I would like to say, mentally go back to when we got back from back to Saipan after Tinian, and back to when the Marine Corps decided to come out with, so they could relieve these guys that had been on the canal and Sarawa and Saipan. They deserved to go home. They were heroes. They came out with a reason why you can get home. A point for every time you were in the Marine Corps, 2 points for every day or month you were overseas, and 5 points for every combat you were in, and 5 points for every award. And mine added all up, as I do, to 59. 64, you go home. I had 59. I said, wait a minute, my wound, 5 points, I go home. And I trotted my little butt up to sick bay and said, where's Dr. Gus? I want to know I got the biggest laugh. McMahon, Dr. Gus has been home for 2 months now, and he's not here. And secondly, McMahon, every night we had to send our casualty list in the division. McMahon, here's your your tough shit slip, TL slip, go down and see the chaplain. And I said, he says, your chances, you're not going to get that changed. So I didn't. Well, I went on during the rest of the war, but Okinawa and Nagasaki. But going back, really, we ended up, and the toughest part for that problem was when we got back from Tinian. Well, I should tell you that, yes, we were down near the end of the cliffs, and we our line was right in front of us. There was a cliff in front of it was going up about 150 feet in the air, and it was going up about 50 degrees, 55, very steep, and it had wooded trees on it, yay, wooded trees. And it was right in front of it. It was all been, the sugarcane field had been cut down for about 200 yards back. We were back here, and our line was coming along on both sides, and they went along through there. On top of the cliff, very quietly, nothing was said, was a loaded, the whole place was loaded with machine guns, nips. It was a heavy, our men was moving along, and about 25 or 30 of them were right down underneath that, right on the bottom of that cliff, and they were there, and all of a sudden, the shit hit the fan. They opened up on our line elsewhere, and we had men right below them who couldn't move. They couldn't get out, they couldn't fire, and they were stuck. And this was at noon that day. I knew, and naturally, my position, which was back behind the line, servicing the line, etc., didn't know a thing about it, other than the fact that I had heard that we were in trouble in part of it. Well, it was about 4 o'clock, 4:30, when down came an officer with a very loud voice, and he said, the old man has finally made a decision. We have got to get those men water and ammo. They are not going to be able to leave tonight. And the decision is, we're taking the best jeep driver we have in the battalion, and we're going to load it up with water and ammo, and we're going to make a run for it. And if that doesn't go, we'll get another one and do it. We're going to keep it up till we get it. Those men need water and ammo. And so the best Jeep driver we had was a guy named Banner. And Banner and I had met when we first joined, and Banner and I had had a couple beings together, and we sat and we talked. I learned to like, he liked me and I liked him, and we got along well. I was over making putting the water on the ammo on this Jeep that was going to make the run. And Banner walked down from the colonel's office. He was the colonel's driver, and he was number one. As he walked up, we made eye contact, and he says, "You want to ride shotgun, Slim?" I looked at him and says, "Yeah, I'll go. You want to go? I'll go." So the two of us got, he says, "Get in, Slim. I don't want any problem." So I got in, and the officer didn't see me. So I walked over and he says, "Whoever told you to get in that Jeep, get out." And he said, "The answer is nobody goes, nobody's told to get in. You get out and you wait, you got to volunteer." And I didn't move. And he said, "Sir," I said, "Son," I said, "get out." And he said, I said, I'm volunteering. And he says, "You're going to ride with Banner?" "Okay. The answer is this. Keep your head down, keep your eyes on him. He tells you what wave you're turning, you do it." And he said, "God bless you, boy. You're going out." And so I looked over at Banner and he said, "You ready?" I said, "Yeah." We pulled out of there. We hadn't gone out 15 yards. Boom, they fired one at us, and Banner says, "Yeah, they know where we are." I said, "Yeah." And we played hot for them for 7 rounds, and they fired 7 rounds of us. And I said to Banner we first took a right turn, and we were going over sugarcane fields like this and bouncing and hurting very slowly. We couldn't go fast. We had all this water and ammo on us, and if we hit that ammo with that mortars, we'd be dead shit, and we knew it. So we were caught, but Banner was on the wheel, and I said to him, the only time I said to him is, "What the hell is 7?" He would count to 7, and then we'd turn, and he yelled right or left. And I said, "What the hell is 7?" He said, "It takes them 8 seconds to recalibrate their mortars." And he said, "We know that from the past on the canal." So we were moving 7. And we moved, and I mean, they were on us each, and we moved, and they were different, and we outfoxed them each time. One time we decided to stay on one side, keep going. They went to the other side. And then we got down. Well, the good part there's always a good part to it. The good part was all the guys that standing back there, the colonel included, everybody was watching. We were being watched by all the people back. And the guys up in the line we were trying to save, they all had their eyes on us, and they were watching. And when we made through 2/3 of the way, and they couldn't get their mortars down to us, the guys in the line started cheering, very loud cheering. And the guy in the back, he could hear. But Banner and I got through. And when we got off, this gunny came out about half. He came out of there. He could have got shot, but he came out and yelled, "Matey, you did a hell of a good show, Matey. That was good coming back." And we got out, and I took a 5-gallon can of water, and I started down the line. And it was the biggest thrill in my world. You bent on and you meet the guy, and you pour the water in his fill, and you shake his hand, look at his hole, and up above him they had the wire nets, they had the and they had cobblestone, they had everything up there because the nips couldn't get through it. And I told jokes and told stories down there, and they were all laughing. And then we got down, and the platoon sergeant said, "Slow down, Slim. You can't go across there." They had already named this nip up in the mountain. And he said, "Charlie's up there, and he's got a machine gun, and he goes right between those 2 trees. Anybody gets in there gets killed." So he said, "Wait a minute," and he yelled across to one of our men, and they crawled up, 5, 10, 15 feet, and was told. He said, "Let him have it." He fired up to hit Charlie. Well, Charlie ducks his head, and when Charlie ducks his head, he says, go ahead, go across, Slim. I crossed over, fed the other guys water on the other end of the line, and I came back, had to do the same damn thing. We had to shoot Charlie and drop his head, and he's dumber than hell on the top of the mountain. But we couldn't get them out, and they couldn't get us out. So.
So we left off, and you had put Charlie's head down. You crossed that gap a couple times.
It's so. What I want to, I guess, I want to wrap up at the end of this part because I go on to the most. I was into a lot more, and I'd like to talk about those because I think it's very important. But the best part about it is the guys every guy in that line had been. Granted, I was a rookie, but the guys that had been there on Tarawa with them before, and the guys that's taller, but the colonel had been through all of them, so they all knew that, and he knew them all, and they had so much love and respect for each other, and they all felt that's amazing. You sit and talk to this guy, and each one, and say, you see that Dag over there? He's the strongest son of a bitch going. He does everything. He's the best. And then you turn around and say, he's the best machine gunner. And then they talked about this Roy Cook and Chicken Curry, who had been up there. And they said, Roy Cook fired machine gun all night on Tarawa, and Chicken had to change the barrel 4 times. So it was bending over, and then with baby gloves. And Chicken crawled out and nicked dead nips so he could get a field of fire. And I'm sitting there saying, Chicken Curry was from Pittsburgh, Kansas, and he looked like a kid. And but he's one tough son of a bitch. And Roy Cook was from Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and he and I became very good friends. I have pictures of him, and he's dead now. He died of cancer. But the guys all liked each other, and your sergeant leader, the squad leader, would sit there at one point and say, he'd tell each one, he knew he had pride in each one, and they loved each other. And they argue and fight, but boy, would they all felt the other guy was the best guy going. And it's love of and they were the biggest Jew from Brooklyn, New York, and boy, he was that they loved him. He was good. So no, war brings out the better in you, and if you're all together and you admire each other, race means nothing. It's the human being, and it's wonderful, and I think it's the nicest thing in the world. We ought to all, but
it sounds like they were all legends in their own right, even amongst the
yeah,
peers.
and we were so proud. Pride again. It's terrible to say that the pride in the Marine Corps is one of the prerequisites. You know, when you go through shit, and you know through much worse than anybody else, you got to be proud, and don't fool around with 2 Marines. They'll give you the hell. Not me, but no, it's that's what I'm so proud of. And then when we saw it with how the Army really was no training, those poor guys were killed, and no, go ahead. Is it on now? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, we're on.
I'm sorry. All right. When 10 was over, and I went back to Saipan, and we had to build our own R&R. We had to build our own thing from nothing. We slept in our little tents for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and they started to get lumber for us to build. And then we were informed, and it was just about, we got back over there in, I would say, early September from Tinian, and we were told in very blunt terms, the Army is building a huge hospital on Saipan, and the Navy or the Army is building a huge hospital in Saipan, and they insist that we retake the island because we left a lot of stragglers, and we did leave stragglers. And so we were told the 2nd Division was split up, and half of us in the middle of the island went this way, and the other half went that way. And we went this way up through the end of the island up to the cliffs. And it was hot, and it included every Marine in the 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. No matter what you were, we lined up 10 feet apart and we walked. And we walked with our armed weapons. And we did it for 10 days. We got to the end of the island. And we were tired and we were hot. We'd killed about 120 nips. And we did sit there at the end, there's no question. They're still up in the cliffs. And it was funny, we stood there and took M1s, and we couldn't hit them. They only go 1,000 yards. They had women up there and kids, and they would try to, they'd bring them out and kick them off the sides. And then we were blasting with megaphones to tell them to come down. But we were told, quit firing at them because you can't hit them. And so that was the last we heard of them. And so I did come back, and the interesting thing was, as we came back, it was a very hot day, and they told us, you're going to walk back down, because we'd already taken the island earlier, and we knew where the road, there's a dirt road down through, we knew that. And so our officers said, we're sending a bunch of trucks up to pick you up. They'll be down to Quantico, there's a town there, Quantico, down there, and you walk down there. It's about a mile and a half down over the hill, and you get on the truck. Well, we started down, and as we got down halfway, the word came back, halt, and then came back a captain, and he said, they've changed, there's no road anymore. We are now going through the Army base. You son of a bitch, just quit. No, don't trash talk. Don't trash talk them. But you're going through, I expect to see your chins up, chins in, bust up, bakes it up. You're going through the Army base. Let them know what Marines look like. Well, we could have cared less. We were hot, tired, and hungry.